And welcome to another edition of the Bruce and Bob Show. Bob Mueller with News 2. Bruce Doby, Nashville media entrepreneur. We're here at Jimmy Kelly's in downtown Nashville talking politics. Been doing this for about a month and a half now, and we're really enjoying the fact that we're hoping to give you a little peek behind the scenes. D.C., obviously, what's going on. The real question is unity in the public and the national races for president. Both sides, no unity on the Democrats as Bernie Sanders continues to win primaries. Hillary Clinton kind of limping to the convention. On the Republican side, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump meeting to try to fight out their differences. Will there be two parties unified coming in after the conventions?
I'm reminded of Yates. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. I read Peggy Noonan's column last week in which she says this is the end of the Republican Party as we know it. I think Democrats will coalesce. I think the danger of not coalescing is more a Republican issue right now. As you watch this kind of filter down state by state, it is interesting to see Bob Corker saying nice things
involved.
Right. He's extending an olive branch to Donald Trump. That was then some media picked that up and extrapolated a little bit on that, thinking that Trump was angling to be the number 2 person on the ticket. I don't think Bob Corker wants to be vice president. He certainly would make a fine vice president. And so this is so unpredictable and volatile and nuclear. I don't think anybody can really predict where we all end up.
It is interesting, though, because Tennessee is involved now. Marsha Blackburn's name has been floated around as a possible VP. Probably not going to happen, but her name should be listed. It would be a plus for him to have a woman on the ticket. She's obviously very well respected in her district, wins big, a Tea Party favorite, would bring different things to a Trump ticket if that were to happen. Bob Corker, obviously more of a centrist, a foreign affairs guy. The smart thing I think that he did, as you just talked about, was actually reach out to Trump before his name got kind of tossed in as a possible VP candidate to say, anything I can do to help with foreign affairs, I'm here.
Yeah.
Trump appreciated that. It's a smart move if Trump wins the White House to have someone with the knowledge of a Bob Corker in foreign affairs.
Right. And Corker really does not like Ted Cruz. I mean, Corker has been there with Cruz as the other 98 members of the Senate. He does not like Cruz at all. So that's one potential motive behind what Corker said, the positives that Corker was saying about Trump. Secondly, Corker's got a race in 2018. Trump carried 98 of the 99 counties. I think Williamson was the only one that went to Rubio. Rubio, then Kasich, then Trump, and Williamson. So that could be behind some of this. I think finally, Bob is a guy who just speaks what's on his mind. Mm-hmm. And Bob is a guy who gets to a meeting and says, how do we arrive at yes? And so he's looking at Trump and trying to say, hey, I really want to help here, and I want to say some constructive things. And here we go, Mr. Trump, if you want some help on this. Bob Corker is a powerful guy on the global stage. And we were talking about this before the air, that he was named one of the top 100 most powerful people on the planet. I mean, well-connected, well-versed, smart. Somebody
and he has a lot of positives that are the same that are Donald Trump's positive. Very successful businessman. He's made a lot of money, has a lot of influence in the state where he lives. He was in state government. Trump was not there, but a lot of similarities in their business background and business acumen. Difference,
notwithstanding the bankruptcy, so Donald
certainly, but different politically.
Yeah.
And Corker would be that guy that Trump says is on his wish list of knowing the legislative agenda and how Washington works.
True. I think Bob Corker would be an enormous asset. Lamar is super quiet here.
I haven't heard a word from the governor or the senator.
No, we have not heard anything.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. In Tennessee, there's a divide. There's no question there's a divide. There's some middle-of-the-road Republicans. There's the right-wing Republicans, and they've been fighting for a while in Tennessee, trying to a turf war.
Right.
That's what's going on in Washington as well.
Right.
It hasn't come together here in Tennessee. We still haven't gotten things that should be done by Republicans who have a supermajority, vouchers and those kinds of things. They can't agree on their own issues.
Right.
Is that going to be the same problem with nationally with the Republicans?
I think it's an enormous problem nationally with the Republicans. One of the statistics you're talking about, the right-wing element of the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee. One of the
conservative agreements on issues that are striking and important to a conservative movement.
Right.
Not in Donald Trump's vocabulary.
Right. And the exit polling, the thing that leapt out at me among the exit polls that were taken after the Tennessee primary and all these other primaries was that 85% of the people voting in the Republican primary in Tennessee agreed with the ban on Muslims coming into this country. And we were number 1 in the nation, higher than Mississippi. So, this is you get outside of Shelby, You get outside of Davidson, you get outside of a little bit of Knox and a little bit of Hamilton, and man, this is one red state.
It's interesting to listen to the national folks talking about this and how, and I agree with a lot of this. He's offended women. They're going to support Hillary Clinton probably more so than Donald Trump, probably so. Same with Hispanics, same with Muslims. The difference is Donald Trump has bounced back and forth on issues all over the board.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
People don't care. They're
Right.
supporting him. It seems like he's Teflon. He can say anything regarding, and his people are there.
Right.
And he has excitement behind him.
Right.
Democrats don't have that. If
No.
he continues to have that and can raise the bar, can win one or two threshold states, he wins.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't put it past the guy, and so the estimates that Hillary will sweep the nation are, again, it's so unpredictable and volatile. You've got two incredibly different candidates here. One, a woman who fails to inspire, a not good speaker.
High negatives.
But you have to say, a woman of substance,
Yes.
Secretary of State for so long, a U.S. Senator, a
An
woman,
open book. We know where the criticism's going to come.
yeah, and and a whiff of the sleazy, and that's just going to be there. With Donald Trump, you have a man whose intellectual integrity you really do not respect, but a man who can inspire the people to get to the polls. So two incredibly different approaches to the office.
What the Democrats have going for them, if you look at the national map, and the map's history does
Right.
play a part in this, the map does favor the Democrats.
Yes, it
a
does.
national election, a general election, is much different than a primary election.
Right.
And the Republicans know that. Whether Donald Trump appreciates that and believes that is going to be the deciding factor in whether he wins.
Yeah. I mean, look at Florida. Jeb Bush will not endorse Donald Trump, nor will Marco Rubio. So, but Florida is, forever and always the big swing state. So how Donald Trump wins Florida is anybody's guess. I mean, it's an uphill battle for him. Interestingly, what happens in these Rust Belt states, though? Ohio, Pennsylvania, those places where, white male unemployment is so high, that kind of shifts into the Trump column. So
Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia,
Michigan.
Florida, maybe Arizona, those might be the states that decide.
the path is
who
hard,
wins.
but
It's always 10%. It's always 10%.
yeah.
Locally, big
Yeah.
story going on, obviously, is the new director of Metro Schools. Haven't
Yeah.
had one in a year now. Chris Henson's been the interim twice for a
Right.
year each time.
Right.
Huge decision, huge implications for the future of the city. Previous mayor Carl Dean, the current mayor Megan Barry have always stressed the importance of this. We have David Fox with us. We're going to join David. He's going to join us here just a moment. Come on in, David.
Yeah, come on.
David ran for mayor. David was on the Metro School Board as chairman. David knows more about what's going on inside the school system than probably anybody except the current people there. And you know the importance of this choice.
Mm-hmm.
And you also know the last time, a year ago, when there was a little bit of an embarrassment, whether Williamson County School Director played Nashville or not is up for debate. He was the choice. He said no, and that was a big loss. There was also an undercurrent. Folks in the school board and in the city really were wanting a minority for this majority school system, and it looks like they're going to get that now. The finalists are 2 African Americans and a Hispanic. One, does that make a difference? 2, if that happens, and it will happen this time, is that a signal to the school system, signal to the people who use the school system, we hear your voice?
Yeah, I think you're reading the dynamic correctly. I think the city is eager to see more diversity in the leadership of our schools. It came close to happening a few cycles ago, and it didn't happen. Of course, we had Pedro Garcia, who was Latino. But I think there is an eagerness to see African American leadership at the top level here. But I don't think that's not the driver, but I think it's a consideration. I certainly understand that's the largest demographic we have in terms of the students who enrolled in schools.
I was kind of a skeptic about this whole approach to selecting this new. I've been very skeptical about the public school system for quite some time now. But we set in motion this huge public relations offensive. The Public Education Foundation, everybody was trying to get everybody on the same page to sing a happy tune, when in fact the system looked awful. The board was still divided. But yeah, we're like asking everybody to be all happy and united as we entered into this choice of a new director. We wanted to present a positive image of the city in order to recruit this good director, right?
Right.
Did that work? Apparently it has.
I think it has, but I think there were 2 purposes. One was to try to put behind us some of the challenges we've had on the school board that might be a disincentive for applicants to come here. I think secondly was to put pressure, though, on the school board itself.
Yeah.
To have all these outside forces saying, folks, you got to get your act together here. You got to. And so I think it's been successful. I think
Yeah.
Shannon Hunt's done a good job. I think the mayor's done a good job engaging in it. school board's done fine. I think they wound up with 6 credible candidates. Now, I will say it's kind of moving the direction I thought it would sort of be moving. There were 2 candidates who I was kind of most interested in. One was Brad Leon from Florida. The other one was Zeph, who was from Atlanta, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And both were the 2 least traditional candidates, both in favor of kind of pushing authority down to the school and funding down to the school. I figured they would get eliminated first, and they did.
Were you surprised that there was not a woman candidate? And we asked that question, and the answer was an interesting answer. We couldn't find anyone that wanted to apply or that fit the requirements. I find that a little hard to believe, but that was kind of the answer we got.
That was my first comment. I was texting with somebody who sent me the list, and my first text back was, "You mean there's no women on the list?" So that was disappointing. That was surprising, disappointing. I think they've made I'm guessing they made a good faith effort. Things didn't work out. The insertion of Dr. Carol Johnson into it the last minute, I kind of wonder what was going on there. I know one of the board members was eager to have her considered sort of the last minute, and I kind of understand that. Dr. Johnson's well respected, but at the same time, you have a process, and the way the school board works is it's very delicate, and if you deviate from the process, the whole thing could blow up. And so I think that's why just about everybody in the community said, Dr. Johnson might be a superstar, but you got to respect your process, or could implode.
Well, that was the one moment where this well-orchestrated public relations, hey, it's a happy day in Nashville plan just fell off the rails. And it was really good to see the community absolutely slam Amy Frog. I have to say that here and now. I mean, she was just way off the rails.
There was a little bit, it went away quickly, a little bit of concern. I heard from Will Pinkston, a couple of others, that maybe the pool wasn't deep enough this time, that maybe we should look at this again. That went away quickly. I think that's kind of settled down now, and it is going to be one of these 3. We're taping this on Thursday. It'll probably happen tomorrow. The question, and you know that, how difficult of a job is this as a majority school system where you have 7 to 12 different languages, cultures? It's all positive, but it's also very challenging. How much of a tough job is the Metro-Davidson County school system to get a hold of and to embrace all of these different folks so that they all get the same opportunities?
Well, I think the best way to answer that is to look at other large urban metropolitan cities around the United States and identify the ones that have come from low performing to high performing. There aren't any. And so it's
a hard job.
So it's a very difficult job to get done. New Orleans actually takes a non-traditional approach by essentially having all charter schools. That's the most urban school system in America. So that's another reason why I'm eager to see authority, whether it's charters or traditional schools, pushing the authority and choices back down to the principal.
We've had some successes. There's no doubt about it. The system has improved. Test scores have improved, but it's not anywhere near where people would like to be. Graduation levels have improved, which is really key.
Right.
But it's still not where it needs to be.
Right.
How do you get to a point, and maybe you don't get to a point, I mean, maybe it's impossible to get to a point where people who move here want their kids to go to Metro-Davidson County schools because they're moving it forward, they're achieving the way they should be?
I think the biggest challenge is having an elected school board. I mean, that is the locus of weakness in public education here and in most other large cities, is you have a government monopoly, which is a challenging way to do anything. We have antitrust laws for a reason. We know that monopolies serve themselves before they serve their customers. And it's governed by an entity that has historically been extremely ineffective. And that is our challenge. If we could get 5, 6 very capable people with some experience leading large organizations, governing large organizations, then I think there'd be some cause for some real optimism as far as how quickly we can progress. Now, I will say, I think the 3 finalists they're talking to are all very capable people, all capable of keeping us moving in the right direction. The question is, can the slope of improvement be high enough, and can the school board itself remain unified enough? And I think they will for about a year or so, because now they're all in. That's the difference here. They have skin in the game. What's going to be key here, we need to see a unanimous vote for this person.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we get like a 6-3 vote, we're going to have some trouble. But if we can get a 9-0 vote, that new superintendent's going to have probably 12 to 18 months of being able to get something done. And so I hope that's what happens. I hope that person seizes the opportunity.
And the ugly political reality here is that Will Pinkston needs to vote for this superintendent, this new director, so that he can then tell people in his district, see, I got you a new director. So you need to vote for me. And it was a totally unanimous vote.
I agree with
so the onus is on the the bad side of the coalition and the bad side of the membership of the school board to vote for this guy. So
I think
there's some
that's
clear
true.
incentives. But that's what do you think of the ed reform movement in
Yeah.
this ongoing school board thing? They're just like
It's not in very
it did
good
not
shape.
work.
It
Not
didn't
in good
work,
shape.
but this ed reform locally and in various parts has been in kind of sputtering
Yeah.
over the last few years. But you say that, but then you look at areas where you're seeing, in all cities like ours, you're seeing continued gains. And again, much of it has come from the charter school
Yeah.
sector.
Yeah.
And so I think the debate is how quickly do we see improvement? I think, thank goodness, in my view, we have the state who can now authorize charter schools.
Right.
Because I think left to their own devices locally, we'd ultimately arrive at a point where there'd be no more charters. And so I'm very thankful that we have a state legislature that has set up a mechanism for the state to authorize good charter schools. And we've demonstrated we'll close bad charter schools,
Yep.
which is as important as opening good ones.
Right.
To be successful, for Metro to be successful, the school district to be successful, does it need to continue this diversion where it has division Metro schools, where it has charter schools, where it has academies, where it has magnet schools, where it has different options that provide different opportunities for these students?
I think choice is a powerful mechanism. And I think there's also a need, if we're going to have choice, we need to have somebody providing information. I think parents need to be better informed over how effective or ineffective their school options are. And they're not really given that opportunity, in my view. I think there's an opportunity for, say, the National Public Education Foundation, Shannon Hunt's organization, to step in and do very serious, critical 10-page reviews on the culture of a school, where are these children going from here to middle school to high school, how many are going to college, so that parents can really make an informed choice. So if we're going to use choice, and I support that, let's help parents be a little bit better informed.
As we all know, you faced Megan in a runoff election,
Yep.
lost.
Thanks
She's
for that,
been-
Bruce. He remembers.
It was a little foggy. Yes, I guess I lost that one.
How's that checkbook?
Exactly. Good point. That's right. That's why I've got a
bless your
martini in
heart.
front of me in the middle of the day.
Right. Right. Beach house for sale.
Exactly.
How do you? She's been in office for 6 months. I mean, serendipitously, property tax revenues are through the roof, sales tax revenues through the roof. She is spending a lot of money.
Right.
We've got, revenues are up 8%. A lot is falling in her lap. It looks good. But what would you have done differently, or how do you rate her performance in office for the first 6 months?
There's a loaded question.
No, I'm
No, as a backbencher, as a
It's
loyal.
true. That's true.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer. And like I said, when I did my concession speech, I want her to be very successful.
That's great.
Because I live
And we
here.
know that.
And so I think she's off to a fine start. I think she's been dealt a very good hand for the reason you said. The economy's blowing and going. I mean, what I would like to have seen in the recent budget, I'd like to have seen some conversation about possibly setting aside some reserves to pay for employee health benefits. We've never reserved for it, and that liability is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. In my view, I mean, like last year when we had a surplus, all this money, we ended up dipping into the reserves, which was, I thought, remarkable. This year, we're probably going to have a ton of money pouring in also, and that's the time, in my view, where you set money aside. And so I would like to see us have a conversation about what are we going to do about these unfunded, especially healthcare liabilities. The pension liabilities one. So, but my issues are quality of public education, improving mobility here, dealing with these unfunded liabilities, and fourth, trying to see if we can create entrepreneurial opportunities for people in places that don't have them. Those aren't easy to do. The jury's out on all of them. There have been no really big challenges yet, in my view, for the mayor's office. I hope she takes those on and the other things on and is real successful. I think we won't have an answer for a few years on these things to see if that's what she wants to do.
David Fox, former mayoral candidate, former chair of the Metro School Board. Appreciate you. Come back and see us again on the Bruce and Bob Show. We appreciate you talking to us.
Just invite me. Thanks,
That'll
guys.
do it.
Good
That'll
seeing
do it for another edition of the Bruce and Bob Show. Thank you very much. Bruce Doby, David Fox, Bob Mueller here. We appreciate you watching. Critique us, send us emails. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you back here next week.